Está começando mais um De Frente com o Maldito na Expo Live. E hoje teremos a participação internacional do grande roteirista dos Jogos Mortais. É isso aí, galera. Hoje no De Frente com o Maldito, Josh Stolberg. Welcome to El Expo, man. But before we start, I have a question. Hello, Josh. I want to play a game. Make a choice.
Awesome. Well done. Well done.
Good night, Josh. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us. We are great fans of your work. We love Jigsaw. And
Thank you.
we want to understand a little bit of your mind.
Wait, let me turn that off. So, okay, good. I'm so happy to be here. I always love to talk horror. I love to talk movies. This is fun. I'm psyched. I'm very, very excited to talk to all of your all your fans, and I'm excited. It's great. Yeah.
This is amazing. How it was for you to work in Jigsaw, creating this beautiful movie and with amazing ideas.
Yeah.
I was in love with the Saw franchise for years and years and years. Actually, my writing partner and I, Pete Goldfinger, who I write all of my horror movies with, Pete and I went to see the original Saw in Westwood in Los Angeles on opening nights, and I think we might have even gone to like the midnight show. And at the end of the movie, with the big twist reveal in the original Saw, it so blew my mind and just really opened up the world for me of how exciting horror can really be. I mean, let's be honest, I've been a horror fan since I was a little kid. The first movie I fell in love with was Halloween. And I still remember being this little kid hiding behind the couch and watching the movie with all of the older kids all watching the film on home box office on HBO. And I was hiding behind the couch watching this thing and terrified. And it was this incredible feeling. I mean, like, you guys know, because you love horror also. I mean, the roller coaster ride of what that does to your emotions and your quickens up your pulse and just gives you that feeling that you're kind of surviving death. And so anyway, so I got to see the first Saw movie in the theater, and from that point on, I was hooked on the Saw franchise. So they did their run, and it was before I was really writing horror films. And then when I heard that they were thinking about making another movie and starting the franchise again, I knew I had to pitch on it. So my agent got me a meeting with Pete, and we went in, and we probably spent a good 3 years. The first year just trying to get the job, because there were literally dozens and dozens of other writers all pitching their ideas about where to take the story. And after about a year, we wound up getting the job, and then we spent another 2 years breaking story and coming up with different unique ways to kill people and really reworking it all. You know, one of the interesting things about the Saw franchise in particular is it's a bit of a magic trick. They, you know, the entire audience knows there's going to be a twist. So you're basically in a situation as a writer and as a filmmaker where you know the entire audience knows a twist is coming, and yet you still have to surprise them with it in some way. So And that's what all of those Saw films have been from the very, very beginning. When Tobin Bell, you know, stood up in the bathroom in part 1, they laid down the gauntlet. They made it really difficult for all of the writers after them to come up with twists that are going to surprise the audience and make them excited. So honestly, writing that Jigsaw film for me was a really wonderful experience in trying to create magic and trying to surprise the audience and get them excited for things. Yeah.
And it's amazing because it's the dream job to create unique traps.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. And, you know, look, at the end of the day, it's a team effort on these films. There are a couple of producers that are really hands-on on Jigsaw. It was, you know, Oren Koulis and Mark Berg are the franchise leaders. They're the ones that kind of spur everything in. And then you've got the entire Lionsgate creative team that are behind it. So, you know, every time you're in a room talking story, you are talking story with people who have been doing these films for a long time, and they know what works, they know what doesn't work, and they'll tell you. You know, you come up with a bad idea, and they'll savage you.
Really,
it was a dream come true, though. And then getting again to go back into the Saw universe for Spiral, the upcoming film with Chris Rock and Sam Jackson and Max Minghella, and it was an entirely different experience because, you know, you're approaching the movie from a little different perspective when you're bringing in these big superstars. But it was a fun challenge, and I can't wait to share the movie with you guys. It's pretty spectacular. It's great. It's great.
The movie is already finished?
The film is done. Spiral was supposed to come out in May of this year, and because of COVID, because of the pandemic, because of coronavirus, they had to push the release. So we've been sitting on this movie. It's ready. It's yeah. We could show it today, but we're holding off and waiting until things settle down so people can actually see it in a movie theater. Because you guys know, seeing a film in a theater is a completely different experience. You're there with a group of people who are screaming and yelling and scared and hugging their girlfriends and boyfriends, and we want people to be able to experience it in the theater. So yeah. But it's done. The film is finished. It's great.
It's great.
Wow, can't wait to see.
Yeah. Have you seen the trailer yet? Have you been able to check out the trailer?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. It's a fun ride. I think people are going to be really surprised and very happy when they get a chance to see the film.
It will be really special. Yeah.
Josh, where is the most difficult part your artist process?
In the entire process of making a film?
Yeah.
You know, look, there are a lot of difficult parts of, especially making a Saw film. Again, like I said, it's a magic trick because the entire audience knows something coming, and being able to try to hide that from them is probably one of the more difficult things. But also, you know, as we go further into the Saw world and the Saw franchise, you know, everybody has a very, very different idea about what they want from the movie, because everyone feels, they feel like it's theirs, you know, because you fall in love with a movie and it becomes, so one of the most difficult things in my world in creating these films is dealing with people's expectations. You know, everybody wants, you know, some people want Kostas to come back. Some people want, you know, everybody wants Tobin to come back. You know, there's Amanda is such a beloved character, and everybody is disappointed if she's not in a film. So that's really the most difficult thing, is trying to balance people's expectations and make them enjoy the movie that you've made as opposed to the movie that they wish it was, because everybody's ideas are different. Yeah, so I would say that's the most difficult part.
Mm-hmm. And also, Josh, where did you get inspiration to create this kind of stories?
You know, I've always been somebody who has loved a little bit of dark humor and just a little bit of darkness. I've always had that kind of in my life. So the inspiration. Look, the funny thing is that when you're making a horror movie, and this has been across the board, every horror movie I've made, from Piranha 3, I don't know if you can see up there, but this is Adam Scott's wetsuit from Piranha.
Wow. Yeah, yeah.
This is Kelly Brooks's bathing suit. What else have I got here? Hold on one second. Let me show you a couple more things. Hold on. I've got that is the oar from Piranha that Jerry O'Connell uses after his penis gets bitten off. This is one of my favorite things, and I had nothing to do with this movie, but The Shining to me is one of my favorite horror movies, The Shining. And this is an axe handle signed by the Grady twins, the Burns sisters who did The Shining. This is this is my saw blade signed by Tobin Bell. That's
beautiful.
Yeah, he gave
That's
to
beautiful.
It's pretty great. Yeah. Anyway, so you going back to what you were saying about inspiration. I have been best friends with my writing partner since college, and we'll go on vacations together. So we'll be on like a cruise ship together with our wives and kids and family. And as we're there on the cruise ship, we're walking around and just saying, you know how I'd kill you? I would. And then you think of the thing that you're, like I remember specifically on the cruise ship, we were there and we were watching this gigantic turning contraption that was bringing in, like, I don't know if you've ever seen an anchor on a cruise ship, but they're the size of a semi truck, the anchors for these cruise ships. And
it's huge.
They're huge. And the gigantic cables that are like these chains, they wrap around as they're pulling it up. And, you're walking by that, you see that, you're like, oh, I shove you in as it's closing, and then the chain will just like rip your body apart as it comes across to your head as you do your last scream as your skull gets crushed. And we'll just walk around and just like it's a lot of fun. It's fun to be thinking about these crazy things. So a lot of people they think that horror writers must have really dark, twisted, sick minds, but for me, being on a horror set are the most fun sets that you're on.
It must be a lot of fun, yeah.
Oh my God, it's so much fun. And you're sitting at the lunch table, and the person that got killed this morning is sitting next to you, and there's goo and blood, and their jaw is hanging off while they're eating their chicken dinner for lunch. Whereas when you're on a comedy set, and I've been on many comedy sets too, everybody's uptight and they are worried that things aren't reading funny enough, and they're struggling. And horror sets are the complete opposite. It's not scary at all to be on set. It's actually a load of fun, and it's like you're playing you're a little kid in a sandbox. I mean, that's really what it is.
Wow.
Josh, does writing or energize or exhaust you?
I would say, look, I'm a writer. I'm also a director. I probably prefer directing over writing, mostly because writing, it's exhausting. It almost feels like the idea for me is almost like I feel like I'm in college still, and I've got a term paper due, and and it's just a lot of it feels like homework. Whereas when you're in a room and you're talking with other creative people, the director, the producers, the stars, the actors, when you're working with them, you start to feel alive again, and then you have to go back to your office and sit down at your computer, and it's work. It's work, and especially when you add to that, specifically in the Saw universe, how it's all about structure. It's all about surprises and twists. You'll see that, if you were to break down the Saw films, especially, you're going to see every 10 pages, there's a huge twist. There's a huge movement. And it's exhausting to try to come up with all of those ideas and get them down. But once you do and you're done, it just feels so great. It feels so amazing. Yeah.
Great.
And it must been a lot of pressure from the studio and at the same time of the fans, because the standards are really high.
Yeah.
In this kind of production.
Yeah. And it's a balancing act, because I have so much respect and love for the fans of these films. And I feel an obligation to make them happy. And it's a little nerve-wracking. Like I really want them to be to be excited. And at the same time, I want to. One of the things that I'm always trying to do is trying to challenge the fans, challenge the lovers of this genre to look at things a little differently. I think, like, you look at something like the Friday the 13th films, and I'm a huge fan of the Friday the 13th films. I'd love to write a Friday the 13th film. I love them, but there's either a predictability to some of those in the middle, where it really just feels like it's a killer just a knife wielding killer just killing people. And they lost, I think, for a little while, the ability to really surprise the audience. They can scare them with jump scares. You open up a cabinet and a cat jumps out. Scaring people is easy. Like a jump scare is the easiest thing in the world. What's really hard is to surprise the audience. It's to make them feel like they have witnessed or experienced something different and special. So again, going back to the Saw franchise, your job in making these films is both to give them what they want and at the same time surprise them and make them realize that something new it could be really, really cool. So yeah. And so since the beginning, I felt that they changed the horror industry, because it was so real. Yes. Those films are traumatic. I mean, there is a brutality to them that really stays with you in a way. But what I'm hoping is it's also cathartic in many ways. I'm also hoping that they are they're the roller coaster ride. They let you experience what it might feel like to be in those situations, and yet you can still, take a sip of your Diet Coke and have a little popcorn at the same time.
That's true. And in the end, it always deliver a good message.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things about the John Kramer character in particular, that so many people, that resonates with so many people, is his philosophy, this idea of value your life and don't take life for granted. And I think it really resonates with a lot of people. I think it's one of the things that makes the Saw franchise stand out over many other horror films. That's not to say I don't love. I'll watch everything from Cannibal Holocaust to the cheesiest easiest horror film, PG-13. I mean, I'll watch them all. I'll watch them all. But there is something special about the Saw franchise, and I feel really lucky to be a part of it.
For sure, for sure. And talking about Piranha, how was that experience for you?
Oh, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing, and it was the first horror movie that that we wrote together, that Pete and I wrote together, and it happened at a time where I had, like, as I said, Halloween. I had like the poster of Michael Myers up on my bedroom wall. I was obsessed with horror but I didn't get into horror until a good decade into my writing career. I started in kids animation, and then I wrote some comedy scripts, and I knew there was something missing because I loved horror growing up, and I desperately to get in, but I didn't know how. I mean, you can't go in and say to someone, hey, I want to pay me money to write a horror movie, when on my resume it was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Sabrina the Teenage Witch and Good Luck Chuck. It was like all of these comedies and kids things. So no one's going to say, all right, we'll pay you to write Piranha. So what we did was, I had a very, very close friend, a producer named J. Todd Harris, wonderful man, great producer, and his company owned the rights to Piranha. So he wouldn't hire me to write the movie. So all I did was I went to J. Todd, and this is how I got that first horror writing job. I went to J. Todd and I said, listen, I expect nothing from you. All I'm asking is don't hire anyone to write Piranha for 2 months. Just give me 2 months. And Pete and I went away and we wrote a spec script called Killer Fish. And we knew that they had the rights to Piranha, so we knew we were making a Piranha movie. But we wrote this spec script totally like for free and for ourselves, and gave it to J. Todd with the idea of, look, if you don't like it, great. We own a script called Killer Fish, and you can go off and make your Piranha movie. But if you do like it, you can option it. And we got really lucky. We wrote a script that they really liked. And we approached it from a standpoint of, hey, how much fun would it be if it was Piranha during spring break? And they got into it. And look, I mean, Piranha is a fun movie. There's that 20-minute sequence that's just this crazy melee of kills and violence and blood and gore. But it's also funny. I mean, like, let's not beat around the bush. I mean, it's a horror comedy. I mean, it's not there. We weren't writing jokes for it, but it was definitely poking fun of itself in many ways. And Pete and I really gravitate toward, I love horror that's fun. So that's how the Piranha thing happened. We wrote the script, they optioned it, and the rest is history. We got our first horror movie made, and then just kept going after that.
And only in 60 days. Wow.
Crazy. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Oh, it's so much fun. And Alex Haja, who directed it, he's one of those directors that is really special, you know. I know some folks don't like all of his movies, but you can't look at his creative work and not say he doesn't have talent, because he's a really talented dude, really nice, sweet man. And we're really lucky that he directed Piranha, because he really made it come alive.
No, and the quality of the piranhas are insanely good.
Yeah, they're great. And some of those kill scenes, my favorite kill scene from that movie is there's the scene where it's during the melee and everybody's going crazy and trying to get out of the water and shit's falling down and bad stuff is happening everywhere. And this woman gets her hair caught in the propeller of the engine of the little motorboat. And you see the guy pulling the chain on the motorboat to try to start it. And you're like, no, her hair's stuck. And finally it goes and the propeller starts spinning and her whole face just gets like pulled off. That to me, that's my favorite kill in Piranha. I absolutely love it.
Great.
Great job with it. Yeah.
Josh, what kind of research do you do? How long do you spend researching before beginning a screenplay?
Yeah, I wind up doing a lot of research, although some of it gets pushed aside. Like as an example for Piranha, they're not the Piranha in our movie are completely fabricated, and like we get away with it because we say they're prehistoric Piranha that have come up from the depths of dinosaur era or something. So yes, we actually did a ton of research on Piranha to help to help with like the crazy the crazy fish store guy in that film, so that he had some things to say about Piranha, and we try to weave it in a little bit. But the truth is that a lot of the time you're just kind of making stuff up. For the Saw films, most of the research came from just getting completely submerged in that world. Pete and I must have watched the first 7 Saw films a dozen times before we actually started writing, because you're really you don't want to rip off something that's already happened.
That must be a challenge also.
Oh my God, to come up with a new kill scene in all of these movies. I mean, it's tough, and you want them to be crazy and you want them to be great. And sometimes, like for instance, for Jigsaw, we probably wrote 3 or 4 full, totally different scripts for Jigsaw. So we probably, over the course of 2 years, came up with 30 different kills over the course of the film. And then some get cut because they're not believable, or some get cut because they're too close to something else. Some get cut because they're too violent. We had one kill in Jigsaw at the very end of the movie that was just, I mean, it was I was getting sick just writing it. I mean, it was horrific. It was just brutal. And when the directors came on, the Stolberg brothers, who directed Jigsaw, who I just adore, and they're wonderful, wonderful filmmakers. But when they came on to do it, they felt like they didn't want it to be as torture pornery. I mean, I hate the phrase torture porn because it kind of it makes it dirtier than I think it is. I think it's fun, but they felt like it was way too violent, so they pulled it back. And actually, in Jigsaw, the laser beam trap, that was the Stolberg brothers' idea. That was them. They wanted to end the film with something a little more high tech and kind of looking forward toward the future a little bit more. Whereas some of the earlier traps are all very medieval and metal and dark. And they wanted to do something a little bit more fun, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, that trap is really high tech.
Yes,
stuff, but the final effect is beautiful.
It's a beautiful effect, and when they made it, when they were talking about how they were going to put it together, they were referencing John Carpenter's The Thing, and that movie uses so many practical effects, and I think a lot of the Saw movies, they're using practical effects, so they still wanted to do something that was high tech, but at the same time didn't want to totally CGI it. And what we wound up with at the end of the day, in the final film, that effect is both practical. So they built that head to open up, sort of like the blossoming flower when his head gets done, and then they polished it with a little CGI on top. But it's mostly a practical effect, and I think it makes it fun. They were referencing in the John Carpenter The Thing movie, they were referencing the dog that opens up its mouth and it just kind of goes like this. And that's very much like that final kill scene in Jigsaw.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. Now I want to play a game. I want to know, Josh, your top 10 movies, horror movies that are memorable for you.
Yeah.
So my top 10?
Yeah.
All right, before I say it though, I want to hear one of your guys' top 10 films, horror films.
One of mine?
Yeah.
The Exorcist.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. That movie is absolutely incredible. Yeah, I would definitely put The Exorcist on one of mine and in my top 10. And the reason is it's just so real. It just feels, it's visceral and emotional, and we all feel that sense of dread for our daughter, our baby, our kid who's going through this. I think that movie is just brilliant. So yeah, I will agree with you. I second that. I would definitely put that in my top 10. Some of my other favorite horror movies are, I actually think Saw 2 is better than Saw 1. So I would put Saw 2 in my top 10.
That's true.
I would put Halloween.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Oh my God, it's so great. And you know, the secret to a franchise, when you look at like movies that turn into franchises where they're making multiple films, the secret is the second movie, because you can get lucky with a movie and hit it out of the park and have that Saw. And Saw is incredible. I love the original Saw. But to be able to then step up to the plate like a batter in a baseball game, step up to the plate knowing what came before you and be able to write something and direct something that's going to continue the franchise and basically shoot it off into the stratosphere. And that's what those second movies really are. You know, if you can make a great second movie, it turns into something special. And I'm a victim of not having a good second movie. Like, I love Piranha, not a big fan of Piranha 2, Piranha 3D Double D. I feel like we missed the boat on that. Like, it just didn't work. So all right, but going back to your question, Saw 2, The Exorcist, Halloween. I think Rosemary's Baby to me is
it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
That's a really special movie.
Yeah.
And it will be a good movie forever.
I agree. And then there are some on my list that are tiny movies that are like, what? Like Mute Witness, I think is a one. Have you guys seen Mute Witness yet?
Yeah.
Yep. I absolutely adore Mute Witness. I actually, and everyone's gonna razz me for this. I'm gonna get hate mail for this, but I actually really liked Halloween H2O. I thought that was a really, really fun movie. It was nice to have Jamie Lee Curtis back as like a starring person there. Yeah, I think those are some of my favorites.
That's good.
Great.
What about the Conjuring universe?
I adore I absolutely love the Conjuring universe. I think, you look at someone like James Wan, who did the original Saw film and then is a producer on so many great films, including the Conjuring universe. And I think a film like that first one, especially the one with Ron Livingston and that cast, I think it's really, really special. I mean, it's scary, it's real. It borrows from the J horror, the Japanese horror world. a little bit, but doesn't steal from it. It creates its own really special, unique world. Yeah. So yeah, no, I love those films. Absolutely love them. Yeah.
And about Midsommar and Hereditary.
Oh
my gosh.
All right. So I am. All right. All right. Again, I'm gonna get into trouble. I Midsommar loved. It went a little crazy. It was a little nuts. Which is kind of what that director's MO is. But Florence Pugh, who plays the main woman, I just adore. I think she's
amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God, a
great actress.
Yeah, a great actress. Have you guys seen The Little Drummer Girl? That miniseries she did? She was spectacular in that too. So yeah, Midsommar I loved. Hereditary, it went off the rails for me about an hour and a half in. Like the last half hour was really challenging, and I wasn't infatuated with the last half hour. That said, if you were to ask me the 5 moments in film that affected me the most from a horror perspective, that scene in Hereditary early in the film in the car with the decapitation.
Oh yeah.
I think that's
brutal. It's brutal.
It is one of the most heartbreaking and sad and scary and disturbing moments I've ever seen in a film. And I would put it up there. So even though Hereditary wouldn't make my top 10, that scene in particular makes my top 10 because I think it is, we're always looking, and when we're making horror films, we're looking for things that are really going to stay with you and to scar your psyche in a way. And that was a scene specifically that was something that I'll never forget. I mean, that was brutal.
And talking about villains.
Yeah.
Your favorite ones. What a character needs to have to be a good villain?
Yeah. The great thing about when you're talking about villains is there are villains in all genres of films. You look at something like The Devil Wears Prada, and Meryl Streep is the villain in that film. Every comedy has a villain, every action movie has a villain. So, but if you're talking specifically in the horror genre, for me, Michael Myers is the thing, and it might just be because of when I grew up. That was my introduction to horror. So he's always been there for me. And about 8 years ago, Pete and I got to write a Halloween movie. So we wrote after Rob Zombie's films finished. So it was after Halloween 2, the reboot of Halloween 2, and before Blumhouse got their crack at the bat with the remake of Halloween, or the most recent Halloween. Pete and I did a draft of a Halloween film, and really it was, even though it's never gonna get made because when we wrote it, we were writing it for Weinstein Company. So and then they were planning on making the film, and then they lost the rights, and that's when Blumhouse came in and took it away. But that, like 6 months of working on a Halloween movie and writing kill scenes for the Michael Myers, it was another level. It was like the kid in me, the 10-year-old kid, was just jumping for joy. And even though that movie will never get made, it was one of my favorite writing experiences because of it. As a writer, I'm writing things all the time, and half of the stuff gets made and half of the stuff doesn't get made. But the experience, I always think when you're writing films, it's about the journey. It's about the experience of writing it. And you've got to embrace that, because if you worry too much about just the final outcome, you're going to be miserable, because so many things can go wrong in making a movie. And even when it's a great script, or something that you're really excited about, you know, things can go drastically wrong. So writing that Halloween movie. So Michael Myers to me is it. And then you can't, Tobin Bell as Jigsaw is, you know, going back to what we were talking about before, that he, people relate to that character and respond to that character in a way that I've never seen before. You know?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Tobin is completely human.
Yeah.
He's complete. He's complete.
Yeah, yeah. And flawed, incredibly flawed, and struggling with himself too, in a way. Like, you watch movies like Halloween, and Michael Myers isn't concerned about doing good in the world. He's after Laurie. Like, he wants to kill Laurie Strode. That's all he cares about. You know, Jason, he just wants to kill some campers. But that Tobin Bell, the way that he has brought that role alive and made the Jigsaw character introspective and emotionally rich, there's no one better. You know, there's no one better than him.
We have a great respect for him, and he's one of the monsters, and he's in my top 10 forever.
Yeah, me too. And getting a chance to work with him and hang out with him and pick his brain, like, there was nothing better than you know, I wrote my first Saw movie. It was Saw 8, and so you're so far down the line on things, and you're running to catch up to where they've been before and trying desperately to make it work. And to be able to sit down with Tobin and pick his brain about every line of dialogue and where this is coming from and how it affects him. He cares so deeply, and he is so emotionally connected to that character that it really makes it come alive. And I think that's the reason why the fans across the world have so embraced him. And it all comes from who he is as an actor. He is a brilliant actor. I adore Tobin, and just am really really happy to have him as a friend.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Did you, during the recording sessions with the actors, did you change much stuff on site?
Yeah, you know, you've got to always be open and ready to make changes on the fly. You know, I've worked on some movies where you're on set and they're just making stuff. They're just making stuff up all the time, and it hurts the film, because you're there on set and they throw away the script and just start making stuff up, and then all of a sudden it affects the scenes that you're shooting tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So then all of a sudden you have to go rewrite the stuff for tomorrow's scenes because they've completely changed things. Instead of, you know, the guy having a son, he's got a daughter now, and you've got to recast and like all of these things. So, but at the same time, filmmaking is a collaborative art. It's not, you're not writing a novel when you're writing a screenplay. You're writing a film that has not been done yet. You're writing a blueprint for the film. You're not writing the finished movie. So you've got to be really open and emotionally open and spiritually open and for changes. Every actor is going to bring their own vision of how they see it. The producers, the director, the art designer, everybody is coming together. When you're making a film, you're working with hundreds, literally hundreds of people that are all more talented at what they do than you'll be at what you do. So you need to embrace those ideas, and you need to be able to, you know, go with the punches and know that you're making something that's in the process of evolving. It's not a finished thing. Just because the word is on the page, it doesn't mean that it's going to be in the movie. Even if you shoot it, it might not be in the movie. So I welcome those things. And it's the reason why I feel like personally, I feel more passion toward filmmaking than I do towards screenwriting. And that's because filmmaking includes everybody else. And I'm a people person. I love hanging out with people. I love it when they challenge me. I love when they're trying their best to make the best movie. And part of that process is letting go and knowing that what you write on the page is not sacred. And you don't know what it's going to be until the movie comes out. You just don't know.
Of course.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Josh,
Yes.
how was the creative process for Jigsaw is different from Spiral?
Will you say that one more time? I lost you in your mask. What was that one more time?
What was different in the creation part between Jigsaw and Spiral?
Oh yeah, completely different experiences. Both amazing. Both experiences I adored and loved. Jigsaw was much more a stepping stone to something else. As you know, we lost a lot of characters from the Saw universe, partly because it was 5-10 years later, and we were trying to find another chapter to the world. Partly because the directors that came in were auteurs. They had a really impressive track record of films where they brought their own really creative, mind fuck crazy feeling to the film. So it was a little different. It was the first time that it was being directed by someone who hadn't been involved in the previous films. If you look at the directors from Saw 1 through 7, you're talking about, the Bousman and Juan, and they were bringing in Kevin to direct, who was an editor on the film. So like all of those films it was like a big incestuous family, and they were all so in it. And Jigsaw was the first one where it was new screenwriter, new director, new direction. And then for Spiral, I was dealing with a completely different set of circumstances. You're dealing with one of the biggest movie stars, one of the funniest human beings on earth. Chris Rock is, I mean, just getting a chance to stand next to him on the set was exciting, And
the thing is, how is working with Chris Rock in a horror movie?
Oh my God, the guy, well, first of all, the guy has an encyclopedic knowledge he's like Rob Zombie, who I've hung out with a lot also, where they just know everything about, this world, even though you don't think they do. You see them on stage, being one of the greatest stand-up comics of all time, if not the best.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then you're standing there talking to him about horror movies, and he's bringing up these obscure horror films. You're like, oh my God, you know this shit. And then to deal with Sam Jackson, where he's one of the biggest movie stars of all time. And as soon as we knew we were casting him, you're like, all right, well, where am I putting the word motherfucker in here? Like, I gotta figure out the word mother. Like, he's got to say motherfucker somewhere. So that was the big change, to answer your question. Was on one film we were dealing with where the kind of the biggest name in the film was Tobin Bell. And in the next one, we're dealing with these gigantic movie stars, and they all have ideas about what they want to do. Like, there were a lot of days where we were in Chris's dressing room, reworking the scene for tomorrow, coming up with, you know, he's got such a great vision about what he wants for a character. And he wanted to bring in some of Chris, like he wanted to bring in some of who he was in that world. So, you know, look, having my name, the written by credit on that film, and having Chris write some really great dialogue was, you know, I'll take credit for that. That's great. He's you know, he's one of the geniuses in the comedy world. That said, Spiral is not comedic. I do not want anyone watching this to think, oh, we made a comedy. We did not make a comedy. I've got a TV show coming out tomorrow on the CW Seed. It's called Kappa Kappa Die, and it's a Halloween special for CW. And it's a haunted sorority house where the girls start getting killed by a ghost. And that's a comedy. Like it's completely silly and funny. And yes, we decapitate people and we have some great kills. But it's 3 times as funny as Piranha and Sorority Row. But Spiral it's a Saw film. Like it is brutal and crazy. But we have great actors that are bringing it to life and are bringing a little bit of, again, I don't want to say humor because it's not there. We didn't write one joke. There's no jokes.
There's no jokes?
There's no jokes. Yeah, you know, it's funny when we were writing the original Jigsaw film, and it was our first time in that Saw universe, and we were coming off of Sorority Row and Piranha, where we made a lot of jokes. Every single time Pete and I tried to add a joke into the Jigsaw script, we'd get an angry phone call from the producer saying, "This isn't a comedy. We're not making a comedy. We want no jokes, no humor at all." Because they know their audience and they know that's not what they want. And the crazy thing is, we wrote one joke. We wrote one joke in Jigsaw, and it made it into the trailer, which was the when Billy starts to wheel forward in the barn, and in the trailer, the guy says, "Oh, that's not creepy at all," in a kind of a funny way. And it was the closest we got to a joke that the producers were killing. Like, if you had seen our first draft before they like screamed at us, there was a lot more humor to it. But again, you know, that's part of the learning thing. And it's about, you know, as a screenwriter, you need to write a film that is going to work for not only your audience, but also for your stars, also for your producers, for everybody. So yeah. So there's not a lot of humor in Spiral. But to go back to your question, that was the biggest difference. One was dealing with a new director to the world that was trying to step out and do something a little bit different, and trying to still make it a Saw movie. And in Spiral, it was about dealing with these gigantic movie stars and still trying to be true to the Saw universe.
Josh, your opinion is Spiral will be the best of the whole franchise? I
love it. I am obsessed with it. I'm hesitant to say it's the best, mostly because all of my friends have worked on all the other ones. Like, I'm not gonna say that James Wan and Darren Bousman and Darren did Spiral. So the director of Saw 2, 3, and 4 also directed Spiral. So it's just as much his film, more his film than any of ours. But I love all those guys, you know, and I'll watch, and like we were talking about before with Hereditary, even if I'm not blown away by a film and feel like it's completely mine, I can find moments in these films and fall in love with them. And, you know, you can show me the cheesiest, most horrible film in the world, and I'll fall in love with something in it, whether it's an actor or a line of dialogue or, you know, every horror movie I've ever seen, there's something about it that I adore. Yeah.
That's amazing, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you for this interview, Josh. It was really special.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I am so thankful for you guys, and for all of the fans that are watching out there. You know, we do it to make them happy. We do it to make you guys happy, and I hope we can keep doing it. And I hope that you guys like the new film.
It would be amazing for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh. I am a big fan.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Keep your great job, my friend.
All right, buddy. Take care. Bye. Have a great one. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye. Take care.
All right. Take care. Bye.